Hello guys, this is a continuation of building our social media app ThumbTalk, and in this video I'll focus on adding two features, which is the comment and the like section of our social media posts. Alrighty, let's get started with the code. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. So the first thing that we're going to create over here is our actual comment services file. So we'll just call this comments.service.ts file. Right, we'll go to our actual routes. So in our routes, we'll actually now create like our actual. So if you come over here, just say comment.route.ts file. Right, so we'll create also our controller for that, which is going to be controller.ts. Alrighty, so once we've actually like created those files, so we'll just go ahead and actually try to create like our actual services, right? So for our comment service, right, we'll just say this is class comment service, right? And this will have like our actual constructor over there. So we'll have like an add comment service. So this is gonna be an async, right? So this is gonna add a post comment, right? So this is adding a post comment. So over here we'll just say this is a comment DTO, right? So for our actual comment DTO, we'll need to actually create that out, right? So if we actually go ahead over here, we'll see DTOs. So we'll just create like our actual comment.dto.ts file. So, and then we'll actually now export this class comment DTO. Right, so if we were to go to like our actual comments entity, we'll see the stuff we'll need for actually creating a comment. So this is auto-generating. We need the user ID, but that we're going to just get from our JWT payload. We just need a user ID and that comment text, because the other stuff are set to default or auto-generated. So the stuff that we're going to need over here is actually our post ID. Right, so our post ID, which is a string, right? Then we can just say is not empty, right? And we also need a comment text over here, which is a string. And we can also set a class validator for that, which is not empty. So alrighty, so once we have those two, we can just go ahead and actually go back to our services, actually import this comments DTO, right? Alrighty, so we'll also need to create over here, which is our comment repository, right? So comment repo, which is of repository, repository. Sorry, my spelling was bad. Okay, this is coming from like our actual comments repository, right? And that's going to be set up to now, right? And then in our constructor over here, we'll just pass in like our actual query runner, like we do as usual. So here it's going to be query runner. Okay, spelling it again. So we'll have like our actual query runner, and then we'll just say this comment repo equals to this dot query. Okay, no, it's actually query runner dot manager dot get repository, right? Then over here we'll just call that, because this is actually using our comments repository, right? So this was supposed to be query runner. So this is query runner Yeah, my spelling sometimes gets off. Alrighty. So the next thing that we'll actually do over here is so we want our actual response to return like a promise of API response, and we just wanna pass it like the comments, right? Which is gonna be like our actual comment, right? So over here we'll just create our actual response. So response, which is of that type there. Then we'll just set that out. So results for now will be equal to 0 and error. Null, I meant to say, and our error will also be equal to null, right? So now we can just go ahead and return response. And we've actually like resolved that error, close that. Okay, so the first thing that we would want to do is actually pass in like our actual comments DTO and our actual user ID, right? User ID of type string, right? Okay, so what do we want to do, right? So we want to actually create our actual comment, right? So for us to actually create like our comment, we'll need to say comment data, right? Which is gonna await this dot comment, right? So this is our comment data. Actually, no, we'll actually need to also have like a post repo, right? And then for our actual post repository, what we'll need to say here is pass in like our actual posts, right? Which is equal to null. And we actually do the same thing over here. So this is query runner manager.get repository, which is actually from posts, right? Alrighty. So what we then need to do is we want to first check out if that post actually exists before we actually do anything, right? So this is post repository.find one. So this is where id, right, is equal to this comments DTO's post ID, right? Alrighty, so then we have like an actual if check, right? So if this post actually exists, right, and the post dot is not active. So actually we want to check these two things, right? So if the post doesn't exist, or our post is actually not active, meaning it's actually deleted, right? So we don't want the user to actually create anything, right? So over there we'll just say our actual response will equal to, so it's a response error, right? So that will be our actual error. Then we'll pass in like our message, failed to add comment for a post that does not exist. Alrighty, so that's the first thing we wanna, and then we wanna also set up like our actual status code, which is gonna be like a bad request, right? So that's the first error handling that we're gonna have over there. Then the second thing that we'll need is actually now going ahead and actually creating our post, right? So this is gonna be set up to our actual comment, and this is gonna be set to plain to class, and we're actually then trying to convert like our actual DTO that we got in our parameters to our comments entity class. And what we're gonna need to pass there is that this comments DTO, right? So if you hover over this, you'll see that this now class is actually gonna be equal, gonna use that, right? So okay, so what we also want to do is, because in this DTO we only have the post ID and the comments text, right? So we also want to add in like our user ID. So with our actual user ID, we'll pass it here. with this user ID we got from our actual parameter, right? So alrighty, so now we can go ahead and actually await this dot comment repo dot save, because we want to save this comment, and then we want to say then, right? So if it actually is successful, that's gonna return that. So then what we will do is actually set that up to response dot results, right, which is gonna be actually equal to that over there. So let's actually see. So here we just needed to return, right, return our actual response, and here we're gonna have like our response dot result equals to that. Else, if we actually catch any error, what we're gonna have is our actual error over here. So this is gonna be response dot error, right? So with our response dot error, that's gonna be that, and our message is failed to add a comment for this post, right? So our actual status over there would then be a bad request again, right? So this is going to be coming from http.status code, and that's going to be a bad request. Alrighty, so basically let me see, this is all we actually need to actually create like our actual post, right? So now let's go ahead and actually try to create like our actual comment controller class, right? So this is going to be exports class comment, so this is class comment controller, right? So this is just going to be a constructor, empty constructor, right? And then we're going to have add post comment, right, which is then going to be equal to that async, right? And then we're going to have like our request over here, request response, which is response, and our next function, which is going to be next function. Alrighty, so this is actually like an arrow function, right? So this is going to be set up to an arrow function. Then we're going to wrap this around with a try catch block, right? And we're going to also have like a final, right? So over here, if we do actually encounter an error, we want to return response dot status code, which is going to be an internal server error, and our actual JSON over here will return this error, right? And then if not, right, we want to have something like this. So this is gonna be here, we're gonna have like our actual query runner. So this is query runner, right, which is gonna equal to now up here. So this dot so we're gonna await this dot query runner dot release, right? So here we'll just want to release like our actual connection, and then right over here we want to like initialize like our actual query runner. So our actual query runner is going to come from our request, and that's going to be from our actual middleware over here. So we've got this which is set up to request that query runner, right? So if we go back to our actual controller, that's as query runner. I like my stuff being like strongly typed. That's why I'm actually using like TypeScript, so that I can find my errors on compile time, right? Okay, so we actually now got like our actual query runner. So now the next thing we'd want to do is actually have like our actual comment service, right, which is going to be a new comment service, and we're gonna pass in our actual query runner over there, right? Alrighty, so then the next thing we would also want to have is actually like our actual comment data. So with our actual comments data, that's going to be coming from our actual body, right? And what we're getting from our body, we want to convert that to our comments DTO, right? Comments DTO, and that's coming from request.body. Alrighty, so once we've actually got that, we'd also want to actually check if we do have so validate if there aren't any errors. So how we do that is we can just come over here, copy this code, go back to this because I've explained this in prior videos. So we'll need to use this validate, which is coming from this class validator, and the only thing we want to pass in there is this comments data, right? So if it actually finds that like there's any stuff that's not included, that's included on our actual class validator, it should throw that error, right? Alrighty, so now what we then also need to do right here is, so we'll have like a const comment, right, which is equal to our comment. So we want to await our comment service.add posts, and then we're just gonna have our so we're just gonna have like our actual comment data and our user ID, right? But you might be asking yourself where we're gonna get our user ID from, right? So this is gonna come in since we're using like our actual JWT, right? So we're gonna get this from our actual JWT payload, right? So in our actual request right here, we're gonna have like we're gonna go pass in our actual user ID, right? So this is how we're gonna get our actual user ID, right? But we need to validate this in our actual auth middleware, right? So in our actual auth middleware, when we validate over here, we've got this variable called data, and that's where we get the data for our actual payload, right? So we want to have here our request and set our user ID over here, which is going to be equal to our data.user ID, right? So that can be like that and like that, right? And we can go ahead and remove that, right? So this is gonna get our data, this user ID, from our actual JWT payload, right? Alrighty, so yeah, once that has been done, we'll be able to actually get like our actual comment. So then we'll need to say await query runner dot commit our actual transactions. And then once we're done with that, we want to just response.json our actual comment, right? So this is going to be our actual comment that we actually made, right? So now that we've actually now done that, let's actually try to create like our actual comments routes, right? So the first thing we'd want to do over here is export constant comment router, right, which is gonna be equal to our actual express router. Alrighty, so then we'll also wanna instantiate like our actual comment controller, right? Nope, this is comment controller, which is gonna be equal to a new comment controller. Alrighty, then we'll just say comment router.route, right? This is just gonna route to an empty route, right? And we're just gonna say it's a post method, and we'll pass in like a protected route. So this is gonna be a protected route, right? So we can have that middleware that does that auth middleware, right? And then we also want to use like our comments controller.add post. Alrighty, so that's just all we need for that endpoint over there, right? So now if we want to go ahead over here and nope, we'll also need to go to our actual index file and actually create that route, right? So this is going to be called comment, and then this is going to be called comment that. Alrighty, so now if we go ahead over here, I've already created a folder for comments and add post, right? So if we come over here and actually use a post that actually exists, so you might ask me, how did I get that, right? So over here in get all posts, I just took one ID, right? And then if I were to come over here and say post added for YouTube, righty. So, okay, that was set to comments, not comment. Okay, now let's test that out. Yeah, so now you can see over here, we actually did get that 200. Okay. If we were to go to our actual Postgres over here, you'll see that we've actually successfully added that post comment, right? So, the next thing that we would want to do is users might actually want to actually delete their actual posts, but hence, we actually doing like soft deletes, right? So how we'll go about doing that is I'll just copy this just to, right, create that function a bit quicker. So if I were to do this over there, right, and then it's gonna be delete post comment, right? So for us to delete our actual post comment, what we'll need is just a comment ID, and that's gonna be of type string, right? And then over here we'll just need to make sure that's string, all right? And then we'll just say const our actual response is gonna be of type API response, which takes in a string. Then we'll just say our result equals to that, and our actual error equals to null, right? So that's what we need for now. We'll just say return response. Alrighty. So let's see, right? So we see over there that we've got an issue. Oh, okay, this is because it's not getting like an API response. Okay, so now we've actually removed that error, right? So how do we go ahead and actually now try to delete like a specific comment, right? So we'll just use a comment repo, right? And then we'll just say this is const comment data, right? And then we just want to find one of the comment where we'll just use a where clause. The ID of the comment equals to that comment ID, right? So this will need to be of comment ID and user ID, right? Because we want a user to be able to delete their own like comment. So this is gonna be also of type user ID, which is user ID, right? So what can we do, right? We want to check if these two actually exist, right, instead of that, right? Okay, so let's check if that comment actually exists. Alrighty, so if this comment exists or does not exist, then we have an issue, right? So if that comment doesn't exist, so we want to set that error, right, which is equal to that over there, which is going to be our actual message, and it's going to say cannot remove a comment that does not exist, right? So we'll just say, yeah, you can't remove a comment that does not exist. Then we'll just give you like an HTTP, right, bad request. Alrighty, so basically that's what we're gonna need. Yeah. Or if we wanted to, but I guess this is all good. I think this is all good. We also want to check if that comment actually state is actually true, right? Because we don't want to just remove comments that don't actually exist, right? That were previously actually deleted. Okay, alrighty. So what do we then do, right? Um, so now we want to actually now delete that comment. So how we're gonna go about doing that is gonna say comments.repo. We're gonna update, and we want to just set that is active to false, right? And then we want to pass in like the ID, right, of the comment we actually want to update, and that's gonna come from our comment ID. That's basically what we need, right? And then we'll go ahead and actually create those. Then so this is gonna be getting us a response, and then we want to just catch an error if we do encounter like any error, right? Then this is gonna be set out to return response, so that if we actually do encounter an error within this portion, then we just return that, right? So then we're also gonna have like that over there, which is gonna be our response, right, error, and our actual message over here is gonna say something went wrong when trying to delete comment, right? And then our actual status right there is gonna be http bad request. Alrighty, so okay, so over here we'll just say our result is successfully removed comment, right? Okay, so I guess that's what we're gonna need for that one, right? And yeah, alrighty, so I guess that's all we're gonna need for that before for actually creating like our actual like comments. So we're gonna have like our actual add comment and our actual delete comment, right? And then let's go ahead to our actual controllers over here and try to create that, right? We're just gonna copy this function over here, and then we just say delete post comment, right? So let's see what we actually need. So over here, I doubt you're gonna need this, because so we're gonna have like a comment ID. I guess we're just gonna pass that in like our actual parameter, right? So how we're gonna go about doing that is gonna be request dot params, and then we'll just say this is comment ID. So this is gonna be our actual comment ID, and we will need this, right? So over here, that's gonna be calling like our actual delete post. We're getting this user ID from our actual like request, and basically that's what we need. Alrighty, so let's see, moment of truth, right? So let's go ahead and actually try to test that endpoint out, right? So we need to also go to our actual route. Why do I forget? Right, we need to go to our route, actually create a route for that. So this is going to be our route for actually deleting, right, which is going to be our delete, and that's going to be our post delete, right? And then forward slash our actual ID. Yeah, No, this is gonna be called our comment ID, right? I guess this is what we're gonna need, right? Okay, now let's go ahead and actually save that and test that out. So we'll need to actually create like a request over here. So this is gonna be set out to our actual delete. Make sure that this is inheriting auth from parent, right? And then we'll just use this URL comment forward slash, and we're just gonna take this ID and actually try to delete that comment. So if I go ahead and actually add that over there and actually, yeah, so this will tell me that I've actually successfully removed that comment. So let's check here in Postgres. If I were to actually reload, let's see what happened, right? So in my Postgres, if I actually were to reload that, we actually see that that's still set up to true, right? So if I were to close everything, save, right? And actually, let me try testing out this endpoint again, right? So if I were to test this endpoint again, this says I've successfully removed that comment. Okay, that's still set up to true. So what is the issue, right? So let's go to our actual comment service over here. So we've got our actual comment service over here. It says cannot remove that. Okay, let me see. So this is set up to that comment. Let's go to our controller and try to do this controller.that, right? We want to console log that over there, and let's test it out, right? So we do see that we do get our actual comment ID, right? But it seems like we're not actually like updating anything, right? So let's see, right? Let's see how we actually deleted our actual post. Like, oh, okay, now I see. Now I see what the issue is, right? So the issue is we're using like a transaction. Okay, but no, we actually are getting that over there, right? So what could the issue be? Because we're actually getting this, right? We're committing this, and so we're saying this update. So let's see under our actual post. So in our actual delete post, right? When we actually deleted like our actual post, we passed in. No, I just want it here in this update state. So we just say awaited that, and we actually updated, right? Oh, I'm passing it the other way around. I think these things happens in development, right? So okay, so this is the issue that I'm actually doing over here, right? So basically what I needed to do over here is pass in the ID here of what I'm actually trying to update, right? And then actually pass in what I'm updating as a second parameter of this function. So now if I go ahead and actually try to save that and try to test out this, should still give me the same, right? But when I try to run this should have changed, right? So I was doing it the other way around. Okay, so now let me just say delete comment. So this is a delete post comment. Alrighty, so we've actually added that. So another thing we'd actually want to add here is like our likes or reactions. I don't know. Do we want to do it that way? I think we can, right? Because it's just one controller to do that. So let me rethink, right? Instead of us creating like our actual likes controller, would we just want to add this in post, right? I guess we can add this under posts, right? So over here we can just say like post, instead of us actually going through the hustle of actually creating that, right? So this is gonna be async, right? Request, request, response, and this is gonna be our response, and that's an arrow function over there. Okay. Alrighty, so let's go to like our actual post service and actually implement like our like post, right? So async, so like post over there. So what we'll need is our actual post ID, which is a string, and our user ID, which is also of type string. Alrighty, so yeah, that's basically what we're gonna need for that, right? So then the next thing, we want to just create our response, right, which is of type API response. And then this is gonna be for actual likes. Alrighty, I think this is not an arrow function. This is just gonna be a promise. API response, and then this is gonna be likes. Close that out like that, and then we just return response. Righty, so results. Our result is actually going to be equal to null, and our error is set up to null, right? So this is basically what we have currently, right? So now the first thing is we'd want to also before we actually continue with that, let's just add like our actual like repo, right, which is going to be from likes, then this dot likes like repo, it's going to be equal to that over there, and only thing that we're going to change over there is just likes, right? Okay, so now we can go to that function we were busy with currently. So we want to just say our actual post exist. So this is gonna be, we're gonna await this dot post repo dot find. We want to check if it actually exists, right? So where our actual ID equals to our actual post, right? And then is active equals to true, because that's what we gonna need, right, for that. Okay, so basically that's what we're gonna need. And yeah, we want to check if that post actually exists. So if this post doesn't exist, right, so we want to throw an error, right? So this is going to be response dot error. So our message is going to be cannot like okay, cannot react to a post that does not exist. Okay, so for our status code, this is going to be http bad request, and we're going to go ahead and actually return response, right? So guess we're done with that. And then let me just see, right? I actually want to react to a specific, so let me just call this like and unlike, right? Because because I don't want to have like unlike, right? So it's like and unlike post, right? So the logic that I want to follow over here is that if I've actually liked the post, then if I like again, that means I'm actually unliking the post, right? As opposed to actually creating like multiple like services for something that can actually do the same stuff, because it's just switching that is active state, right? So the first thing that I would want to do over there is actually check if like there's an actual like data, and that's going to be set up to this dot like repository dot find one, where the ID, right? So let me see, right? So because a user can actually like one post, right? So that's going to be saying a post ID equal to that post ID, and our actual user ID is equal to that, right? User ID. Okay, so this is the first thing we'd want to do, right? So if this like data does not exist, right? So this is what we would want to do, right? Which is going to be create our actual like, right? And then we want to have like an else statement, right? So now let's actually now go ahead and yeah, do that, right? Okay, so if our actual like doesn't exist, we want to create our actual like, so we'll just say await this dot like repo dot save, right? Because we want to create like our actual save state. So this is gonna be our actual like, which is coming from our actual likes. And what are we actually passing over there, right? So if we go to our actual entity, our actual likes entity, the only thing we need is actually our user ID and our post ID. And because like this is active, is gonna be automatically set by default to true, right? So our post ID, so this is going to be post ID equals to this post ID we're going to pass in over there, and our actual user ID is going to be our actual user's user ID, right? So this is going to be our like, nope, like, right? So we're going to pass in our actual like over there like that, and then we're going to save, then. So what is the issue, right? Okay, so we'll just cheat this and say this is as any, right? Just to remove that, because it wants the required fields to be filled out, but those are the two stuff we need, right? So response over there, which is going to be equal to those likes response. So we'll just say our actual response dot result is going to be actually equal to that, and then we want to catch any error we encounter. So this is going to be response.error, right? So our actual error message is something went wrong when trying to react to this post. Please retry again. All right, so please retry again, and our status code is going to be http bad request. Okay, so basically that's what we need, right? And the other thing that we also need over here is to say something like this, right? So if our actual like actually like exists, what we want to do is actually set like our is active, right, to that. Okay, so let's say this dot likes repo dot update, because we want to update this likes dot id, right? And then what we want to do over here is set that is active, right, to the negation of the likes dot is active. So basically what's gonna happen over here is, say now a user actually liked this comment over here, right? For the first time, it will actually like this comment, right? Create that like. But now if our user were to click on the like button, which is uncommenting it out, it should actually negate this, right, and say change the state of is active. So if it's true, it's gonna set it to a false. If it's false, it's gonna set it to true again, right? And then we just want to do the very same thing over there, which is what we actually did right here, right? So let's see if we were to await. So our actual update doesn't return to us anything of that sort. So what we want to do over here is just set this to our actual likes data, right? So this is gonna be saying like dot is active, right? Is actually set up to likes dot is active, but the negation of that over here, and then we can just equate this like that. Yeah, so that's gonna be basically what we need. And then after this else statement, okay, because we are returning something, so we can't do something like that. And let's just basically see if we actually did everything right. So if we encounter the error here, we return. And then here, if all of those stuff actually happens, okay, but we don't need a return over here, because if anything, yeah, if we go into that, we actually set up our response and our actual else statement over there, right? So now, moment of truth, let's go to our actual posts, right? And we're just gonna call like it's post reaction, right? So this is gonna be called our actual post reaction. And I'm just gonna copy this over there and paste this like that, right? So yeah, let's see what we actually now need to do. Alrighty, so we're gonna get this user ID, right? This user ID is gonna come from here, right? Which is gonna be our user ID, right? Which is gonna be of type string, so we don't need that. So this is gonna set to that service, and then this is gonna be our actual post. Okay, like unlike. I should have called it the same name. So let me just go ahead and change that. So instead of calling that, so where is this, right? So this is under the post service, right? So under post service, my bad, right? So this is gonna be our actual post reaction. Should I call it post reaction or like unlike? I think like unlike that makes a bit of sense, if I can put it that way, right? So we're just gonna pass in our actual post ID and our user ID, and then we're gonna just go ahead and see. So how we're gonna get our post? We're gonna get it through our actual posts, okay? Parameter. And okay, yeah, that's basically what we're gonna need. So let's just copy this, and this is gonna be set up to be, should we set this to a get? I think no, let me just set this to a, like an update, right? An update that's not gonna pass in anything, right? In the parameter. So this is gonna be like unlike, right? And then we're not gonna need this user ID. So the only thing we're gonna need is that. So let's see what happens, right? So this is actually complaining, right? So let me go ahead and actually save all, go back to this post router and see the property update does not exist in, oh no, it's a put, it's a put method. Okay, yeah, so basically this is going to be called like, so the endpoint's name is going to be called like unlike post, and we're going to pass in that post ID there as a parameter, right? Yeah, so if we were to go over there, I think there's one thing. Did I add it? Did I add it? Yeah, we cannot really. Okay, I did add that, which is checking if you can't react to a post that's actually deleted, right? So now let's go ahead and actually test that out. So under post over here, we'll add a new request over here, right? Which is gonna be a like, unlike post. So this is gonna be set up to a put, right? And if we go back to our actual routes, we're gonna copy this over here and we'll call it that. So if I were to go to our actual posts, get all posts, so what is it actually complaining about now, right? So if we go back here to our actual service, we didn't remove this, right? Because it's not gonna actually give us that. Okay, so okay, alrighty. So if we were to save, let's actually see if we're actually crashing. So now this is running successfully. So if I were to go to get all posts, I'll get all my posts, copy this post, right? And actually try it out, right? So now if I were to go ahead and actually try that, let's see what's actually happening, right? So we're actually getting like an internal server error, right? So if I were to try it out, we're getting an internal server error. So this is inheriting from that. And why is that we're getting like an internal server error? Let me just do this. Clear that out. And actually test it again. Okay. So we're actually getting like our actual internal server error. So let's see what's actually happening, right? So we've got this like, unlike, right? There. So we've got our actual post, right? Which is coming from this post ID. So if we go ahead and actually console.log, right, our post ID, right, and our actual user ID, and try to test this again. So what's actually happening now, right? So we're getting our post ID and our user ID, but I'm trying to figure out what our actual issue is, right? So I think it's kind of here. So this is going to be console.log error, right? So let's see what our actual error is. Oh, now this is okay. It's giving us like something that's a bit descriptive. So it's saying like our post data is null. Oh, okay, because I made a mistake, right? So we're actually creating this if our actual likes data is actually null, right? So if we don't have this null data, if we're not getting anything back, then we actually create. But if not, then we do the opposite, right? So now let's go ahead and actually try this out. And if we were to comment on that post or like that post, we should be getting this, right? So now let's go ahead and actually select all from our actual likes table, and let's see. So we see over here we've actually reacted to that post. But if we were to do this again, right? So we'll see now that our actual is active is set up to null, right? Or to false, I meant to say, meaning that we've actually unliked that post. But if we were to click on the like button again, so this is what's gonna happen. It's gonna set that out to true again. Right. Yeah, so basically that's all we're gonna need for this video, because we've actually implemented how we do the post comment and the post like. So if you like this video and you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.